and welcome back to another episode. How we getting
There
on,
you go.
guys?
Doing pretty good. How are you doing, Victor?
I'm doing pretty good, Jer.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you on today. Victor, how about you introduce yourself?
So I'm Victor Briere. I'm an Ayurvedic doctor in Northern California. And for those who don't know, Ayurveda is a holistic form of health that's been around for about 10,000 years, came from India, and it shares common roots with traditional Chinese medicine. And we work with herbs, we work with diet a lot, and we work with lifestyle choices to get people into balance.
So, speaking of life choices, you have a couple of cool ones. You got that going on, and then you're also a vegan. And
I
from conversations we've had before with other people, you're looking very, very healthy. You're looking very, very healthy. So we'd love to hear about how that goes on. So again, I'm going to butcher it again. What's it called?
Ayurveda.
Ayurvedic.
Yeah, Ayurvedic medicine or Ayurveda it means the science of life. That's what the translation is.
Okay. So I guess tell us a bit more about it. Like it's old as again nearly people themselves. Like, so what's going on there?
So it started from an oral tradition. So there wasn't anything really written down about it for a long time. But the idea, we have this thought walking around in our modern culture that, if you don't have access to an X-ray and an MRI, you're doomed. But the reality is people have been walking around for a long time, taking really good care of their health. I remember, I don't know what it was like in Ireland, but in grade school, I got taught that, people of old were kind of hobbling around in these mud huts and, they didn't make it past the age of 30. And that's just a lie. It's a myth I got taught in my upbringing. So the truth is that these very sophisticated cultures, especially medicinally, in olden times, and they developed these wonderful systems of medicine that just look different from our modern system of medicine.
Yeah, we've had these kind of conversations before with anyone from like when we had herbalists on or even permaculturists on. And even when we had Brian Sanders on to talk about, he's about meat diet, he was saying like what you said, back in the day, they weren't hobbling around in bits. They were way healthier than we get taught, which is, I don't know. I wonder why they don't tell us that, or why they tell us like, now we're healthier now.
Yeah, I think, well, there are definitely advancements, but I just, I think that the older traditions get kind of subdued or underplayed. Ayurveda is the place where first surgery happened. They had a whole bunch of surgical techniques. And so, of course, surgery's come a long way since then, and we have extreme advancements. But I wish more credit would be given to these cultures that weren't simply just, using a rock on a nut or something like that to break it open and barely surviving. These cultures were thriving and healing a lot of diseases that we struggle with now. So on the one hand, we're great at dealing with some stuff, but we've created more problems than we've solved.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And you definitely see that with the obesity rates nowadays. I seen a figure recently saying like that the coming generation will be the first generation to start dying younger than the one before them. That's a terrifying idea. So you obviously deal with the vegan diet, and we said earlier there's a right way to do it and there's a wrong way to do it. Obviously, you seem to be doing it right, buddy. You're looking well. So,
Thank you. Thank you.
I mean, how do you do it? What's the right way?
So
What's your right way?
Well, yeah, what my right way is, there are a few right ways to do it, but there are certainly wrong ways to do it. Absolutely. Especially because we're raised, the vast majority of the world is raised not vegan or vegetarian. And so there's not a lot of education unless you really go hunting for it on how to do it. And let's just be real, most omnivorous people don't do omnivorous eating correctly either. Given the extremely high rates of depression, anxiety, diabetes, obesity, cancer, heart disease, you name it, right? So the right way to do it is there are a few factors when it comes to eating vegan. One is timing. That's something that we don't talk about a lot. The Western culture, the Western mindset towards food is very much nutrient based. So what nutrients does this food have? Does it have enough protein? Does it have enough, whatever, vitamin A, B, C, D? But that's just one factor and not even the most important factor when it comes to eating. The most important factor, according to Ayurveda, when it comes to eating is when you eat. And so now there's a whole, world emerging about intermittent fasting. I'm sure you guys have talked about that.
Mm.
And that's kind of a fad that's going on, or I should say the marketing of it is a fad that's going on, but that wisdom's been around for thousands of years. It's a really good idea to time your meals for your circadian rhythm, and has a massive impact on all your levels in your body, blood sugar, cortisol, you name it, all the stuff, any hormone, anything you want, blood pressure, all that stuff, all affected by the timing of when you eat. So to do it right, what Ayurveda actually officially suggests is that you basically eat 2 meals a day, and maybe 3, but the third one's very small and very light. So you would eat lunch, and lunch is your biggest meal of the day, and that's around noon, between noon and 1. There's a reason for that. The reason for that is that for a healthy person's circadian rhythm, your metabolic force is strongest at around noon. So you're going to get the most efficiency out of your digestion at noon. Then you eat a very light meal at dinner. And when I say light, I mean like completely plant-based, obviously, if you're an omnivore.
What do you mean? Obviously, if you're an omnivore, make it plant-based at night.
Because I'm a vegan, so everything's plant-based.
That's I thought you were saying overall, like even if you're an omnivore, make it plant-based. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, so if you're an omnivore, plant-based at night, and you would definitely do some like soup. You go low carbs, not a lot of carbohydrates at night. And what that does is that makes it really easy for your body to digest or assimilate what you just ate. It doesn't have to use a lot of resources. And overnight is when our body does most of its rejuvenation and healing, while we sleep. That's why people who don't get a lot of sleep have big inflammation problems, things like that, because the body can't repair tissue properly. And the quality of your sleep improves when you lighten up your digestion overnight. So eating at those 2 times, and now I know people are thinking, oh my God, that's not enough food. That's not enough calories, right? Another kind of myth that we've been taught is that I need X calories. And that's the way I should measure how much nutrition I'm getting, is through calories. Calories are one measure of ascertaining kind of energy derived from food, but it's so broad and so encompassing that it almost becomes meaningless. I could eat a bunch of empty calories, meet my calorie mark, and I'll be miserably sick all the time. And I'll either lose weight or gain weight. It's just the body's far more sophisticated than counting calories. So I throw that measure out. Basically, I think it's trash, counting calories.
Which would be news to a lot of people, because that's what most people do to try to lose weight.
Yeah, exactly. That's not a good way of losing weight. Weight is about basically how efficient your metabolism is running and how well your body absorbs nutrition, because your body's very good at disposing of things it doesn't need. You run into problems when your body's not getting the nourishment it needs, and it can't supply the different tissues with the resources that they need. So your body starts creating a lot of compensations, and then you put on a lot of weight as one of the compensations that people face. It's unusable stuff. The body can't use what it's taking in, so it has to store it somewhere because it can't eliminate it all. Typically, it stores it as fat. The other big component to weight gain that we don't talk about a lot yet is it is massively impacted by our emotional state, much more than our food intake. So that's a whole other podcast, though, on weight gain. But anyways, so the timing of eating is more important than what you eat. Of course, what you eat is important, but the timing's more important.
Mm.
Then the third thing that we also don't take into consideration enough is in what state you are while you eat. I don't know if you guys have ever come across it. You'd have to tell me, but have you guys ever done anything with the autonomic nervous system or the vagus nerve?
I've heard of Vegas as a place. Yes.
Yeah.
No, I've never heard of that.
I am, but so what's really important there is we have this giant nerve running through our body called the vagus nerve. It connects all our sense organs and our brain to every vital organ we have in our gut and heart and lungs and everything. So, and it's this like super highway of information. It's not some like far out there concept. It's like completely been around in the medical world forever. Everyone knows about it, but for some reason we're not taught about it. I don't really know why, but it's starting to become more known. It's massive, it's huge, and it affects us dramatically all the time. You guys have heard fight, flight, freeze, of course. The vagus nerve is what dictates which nervous system you enter into at any given time. And if you go into what's called your sympathetic nervous system, that's the fight, flight, freeze response. So I perceive a threat somewhere in my environment. It doesn't have to be an actual threat, just a perceived threat. And I go into a defensive maneuver. So either I try and fight and deal with the threat to try and eliminate it. I flight, which means I create distance between myself and the threat, or I freeze and hope the threat passes by without noticing me. And people in general move between between those defensive modes throughout their life and day. If you sit down, let's say you're at work and you screw up or something like that, and your boss is like on your back, it can be quite threatening. Oh my God, I lose my job, I can't pay my bills, I'm stressed. That's the key word. I'm stressed. And that happens at 11 o'clock. And I run down the street and I just need, whatever, I got to get out of the office and I need to get a bite to eat. And my decision-making first off is not going to be great because I'm stressed. So I go and I just grab something maybe that I think is maybe somewhat healthy or whatever. Maybe it is healthy. Let's just pretend it is healthy. And I sit down and I eat that and I'm all stressed. I'm eating and my mind's running and all that. I'm not going to digest that food, period. I don't care how healthy it is. I'm in my sympathetic nervous system, and in the sympathetic nervous system, my body, my physiology has changed and moved away from digesting and healing to managing threat. So meaning I'm more vigilant. My senses are, I pick up different sounds. Everyone, even a neutral looking face, appears as threatening to me temporarily while I'm in that state. My breathing, my breath rate's increased, my heart rate's increased, my blood pressure's increased. My body is actually sending messages to supply blood and resources to my extremities so that if I have to defend myself or flee, I can do so more readily. On and on and on. But if I'm eating in that state, my digestive fluids aren't happening properly. I'm not creating bile properly. I'm not creating insulin properly. People who go into that state and eat typically have blood sugar spikes. So for diabetics, it's a big problem because they can't recover from a blood sugar spike very easily. The list goes on. So when I say there's a right way to eat vegan, going all the way back to the beginning of the question, you got to take those other two things into consideration big time. The same is true for an omnivore, but because there's a right and a wrong way to be an omnivore as well. But we're talking about veganism, so let's just stick with that.
Yeah. But what's that stuff is very important. My question came out of like, getting all the right stuff out of your food, or even protein, because again, in other conversations we've had, we've been told that's quite difficult on a vegan diet.
From all my measures and studies and people I work with, I get more protein in a given day on a plant-based diet than an omnivore gets.
But how bioavailable is it? Is another thing that was brought up. We were told that like plant protein is more difficult for your body to use than animal protein.
There might be some truth to that in some ways, but that's kind of the thing. It's like, studies show that a glass of red wine is good for you every night. Sure, it might be good for one part of you, but what does it do to the rest of you? So Ayurveda is big on looking at the whole. How does the whole system operate at the end of the day? That's what we're going for, right? I'm walking through my life and I want to, on the whole, have a great life. I'm not looking for like, oh man, I hope that my liver's great, but I could care less about the rest of me. That's not how we operate on a day to day. And that's not a healthy person who just focuses on one aspect of their body. So maybe it is a little bit more inaccessible, but I don't even think that's true. But I guess you could come up with a way of talking about it like that. But on the whole, someone who's eating a plant-based diet is going to have access to more protein, bioavailable protein, than someone eating a meat-based diet, as long as they do the other things. I've never come across a plant-based person that I've worked with who has had a protein deficiency ever once.
But as we said earlier, when people who are doing it wrong, that is quite common. We've seen many people like malnourished, doing a vegan diet wrong. But you think, or well, I guess if you do it right, you're going to be okay.
Yeah, you're going to be okay. And I just like to point out that, okay, if someone does a vegan diet wrong, they might have certain issues like, lack of protein or iron or something like that, right? If someone does an omnivorous diet wrong, just pick your list of diseases. It's the same thing, just a different issue, different disease. Someone does an omnivore diet wrong, diabetes, stroke, heart attack, hypertension, that's what I'm saying. If you do anything wrong, you're going to face the consequences of it.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
100%.
So, I'm getting curious now. You only eat 2 meals a day, but one of them is tiny. So, I mean, what's on the menu for today? If you got to get like basically a day's worth of calories in one go, or a day's worth of meal or whatever.
Good question. So I'll have a big lunch. So today's lunch is a pasta dish, whole wheat organic pasta, with a big vegetable stew. So, and that vegetable stew is full of digestive spices, cumin, coriander, fennel, turmeric, asafoetida, fenugreek, anise, star anise, things that help you metabolize your food, so that it's not all up to my body to do. And it's hot, it's cooked. That's important. That's really important. I would never tell anyone to be a raw veganist ever. It creates.
I've heard about that and it being pretty dodgy.
For short periods of time, it can be useful in specific situations, but that's it. Just like Ayurveda as a health science, because I don't want people to equate Ayurveda with veganism completely. That would not be true.
Yeah, just how you go about it.
Yeah. So Ayurveda as a health science promotes the use of certain meats when dealing with emaciation, specifically as a health concern. So if someone's severely underweight, I use pounds, obviously. I don't know what it would be in kg, but let's say you got a male 5'10", weighing under 100 kg, that's severely underweight, weighing under 100 pounds, that's severely underweight. You're going to probably use some kind of meat to help build muscle tissue.
But then, I hate to be a nitpicker, but why wouldn't you just
kind of drawn out the nitpick in you?
Yeah, no, yeah. I don't mean to be. Just if the practice is making you use it or use meat when you're underweight, and it's knowing full well it's healthy in that situation, why wouldn't it promote it overall?
Because meat meat products, and when I say meat, I'm not saying that person's chowing down on a steak, because they're not going to digest that properly, and it's going to sit in their digestive tract for too long, fester, and become what's called in Ayurveda is ama, which is undigested food that makes it through the digestive tract into the system, and then starts creating toxicity in your tissues. That's what happens when you don't digest food or eliminate it properly.
Mm.
So, and then over time that creates diseases. What I'm saying is there is a specific function to like drinking bone broth or something like that that could build tissue very quickly. That's what it's good for.
Okay.
But most people do not need that. And
So
then they'll develop a disease of excess if they eat a bunch of meat without needing to develop tissue quickly. I don't need to develop tissue like tomorrow. I'm not emaciated. I
Yeah.
have a long span before I need to develop certain types of tissues.
so okay, so say someone was in that situation, what would you recommend then?
If someone's emaciated,
Yeah, like, are you going to say have like a steak, have bone broth, maybe a bit of salmon? Like, what is, I guess, what would you do in that situation?
I've got a case right now, someone with severe Crohn's disease, and vastly underweight. And so he came home from the hospital most recently, this was months ago, and was advised to eat at least 2,000 calories a day. He can't digest 2,000 calories a day. Anything he puts into his stomach comes out as diarrhea. Not going to happen. Not only that, overeating is overstressing a delicate digestive system that's full of inflammation. And so it's like telling someone who's got a broken bone to lift a huge amount of weight. You know, it's a bad idea. Their body can't handle that strain. Whereas if someone who's perfectly healthy, no problem, they could do that, right?
Yeah.
So, but the idea is, no, you need enough calories to put on weight. Not true. Actually, I started him on broth, chicken broth specifically, with some rice and some mung beans. And, you know, right, I get it, understandably so. The family was a little bit nervous. It's like, oh my God, this kid's emaciated and he's on a 600 calorie a day diet, right? But lo and behold, he started putting on weight slowly, very slowly. And he's gone from 78 pounds to now over 100 pounds in a matter of months. And yes, we started increasing his food intake as his digestion was able to handle it. So that's the key. We look at the food, and that's the half the relationship.
Yeah.
But what about our body? That's the other half of the relationship. Why do we got to take into account the strength of our own metabolism before we decide what we can even eat?
You know, I never think about like, oh, I never think about it like a. And Thomas, you did home ec studies and you learned a lot about nutrition. I don't think we would have talked about that either.
Oh no, when we talked about vegan diets and vegetarianism, it was the advantages that came with it, but nothing in this deep. I guess it's just kind of the basics of, but like we learned about all the different types of diets as well, and yeah, we talked about the disadvantages of, you know, not enough protein and iron. But sure, man, you look grand. Don't worry about it. Like, I think you know what you're at. Like, you know, you seem fairly confident in yourself.
Yeah.
I spent years researching, studying this, and not just studying it. I'm not a researcher in the classic sense. I work in the clinic. I mean, I work with people every day, hands on. The problem better get solved for real, or they're going to stay sick. This isn't theory. This is something that's put into practice every day. So, in general, of course, I can't. I have to make kind of broad, sweeping claims because we're just talking in generalities.
Yeah,
of course.
But people who adopt a healthy vegan diet are pretty much in every aspect healthier. More energy, clearer mind, happier, fewer chronic diseases, if any, more stress resilience. I mean, we can go down the list. And we could even get into the part, you know, our digestive tracts are built to, you can be an omnivore, but really if you look at the digestive tract of an animal that eats meat, it's very different from ours. Like a dog, for example, they have a very short digestive tract, whereas ours is extremely long.
Yeah.
And if you look at herbivore, extremely long digestive tract. We don't have canines. We do have canines. We don't have fangs.
But don't we have the acidity of a predator?
The what?
The stomach acidity of a predator.
We have strong stomach acidity, which allows us to be omnivorous, but it's not like that's a requirement for us to be omnivorous. And you can eat meat, but also remember, a lot of the ancient cultures that were eating meat, very small amounts at very specific times.
Well,
like what we do today, where you're eating meat 3 times a day, 7 days a week.
Again, that kind of depends on the individual cultures. Like there's plenty that practice, like, I don't know, like pescatarianism, or they would have little meat, but none that would have like none. Or there's even like there was in North America and in Africa, 2 different groups that were only on meat, as well as the Inuits. Yeah, but like going back to what you're saying earlier, yeah, when you go to any diet and like you're stepping away from the standard American or even Irish one, you're gonna do better. We see that with everyone. If you're eating like just garbage, dude, eat a vegetable, you're gonna do better. You know?
Yeah, and so that there's a big debate between, vegans and omnivores. I hesitate to say carnivore because I think it's very rare to have a person who eats just meat, and I would be very concerned for their health profile. But the big debate rages. But the reality is, if you just forget veganism and forget omnivorousness for a minute, just the reality of people's stress eating, they're just grabbing whatever and eating whatever whenever. That's actually the real problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that definitely is. Okay. There's got to be something causing the obesity, and that's definitely a factor. No, I love having this conversation with you today because I know I'm not really going to listen to it just today specifically. I'm ordering a takeaway later. I'm having a brewski with the lads later. I'm staying up late watching UFC because it's in, yeah. So it's probably the worst day I could be having this conversation with you, dude.
Tomorrow we're gonna start waking up at 4 a.m.
tomorrow,
like yourself. It's like
it'll change.
What's the science behind that? Actually, I'm very interested in that.
Yeah.
Up early. What time do you go to sleep at? Like, what's your schedule day to day like?
I go to sleep about 10 and wake up at 4. So, and that's the other thing. You need 8 hours of sleep. Not really true. Not if your metabolism is very efficient. So I don't take naps. I don't get tired. I mean, of course, there's a day or something like that where I'll drag a little bit, right? But as long as I stay pretty emotionally level throughout the day, in the sense of I don't get extremely stressed or angry or upset or anything like that, my energy will be pretty consistent and my sleep will be very sound. I wake up easy. So I'm up at 4 and I'm up. I practice yoga meditation on an empty stomach, which is very important. And then I go on with my day. So like right now for me, it's 6:30 in the morning here. We started this podcast at 6 a.m. my time. And
it's crazy. I still think that's crazy, dude.
Yeah. And that wasn't for me. I think that's the important thing. Like when I was in university, before I became a vegan, I became a vegan at 24 years old. So I grew up eating meat like everyone else, kind of the normal diet. I was a complete night owl. I needed about 8 to 9 hours of sleep to feel rested, and had health problems. Not anything super severe. I was pretty young, but I had health problems, aches and pains, and I'd get sore. And when I worked out, I'd stay sore longer. And, I had some skin issues and stuff like that, acne and, And so when I switched, man, did that all that stuff change relatively quickly.
Yeah. But you said something earlier about like how your circadian rhythm affects it, but you get up at like 4 a.m.
Yeah.
Does that like, I don't know, that sounds like it wouldn't be that helpful. So I don't know, like I would have thought you would need more sleep.
No, I don't. But to be honest, it took me a while to get to this point. It's not like,
You didn't do this in one day, in fairness.
I'm just gonna eat carrots today and the next day I'm good. Like it
Yeah.
wasn't like that. My body had to build and I had to make myself efficient and refined. And also I think that a lot of that has to do with relationship, not just food. We're talking about food today, but again, Ayurveda is holistic. So there's no sense in just talking about someone's diet if you're ignoring the fact that they're in an abusive relationship. It's like that's going to drain their system physiologically. They're going to be stressed out all the time. That's going to destroy their digestion. And so you got to look at every aspect of their life and how they're living it. How are they happy? That has a huge effect on how much sleep you need and what you eat and why and how you digest that food. Just general feeling of happiness and well-being. Isolated, depressed, lonely, anxious, what kind of medication are they on and for what? All those things are affecting circadian rhythm cycles.
It kind of draws like a comparison to the Mediterranean diet where it's not just about the food you eat.
Bingo.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's about a lot more than that. So, it's work to create a lifestyle that's actually balanced and healthy, but that's the work that Ayurveda is about. An Ayurvedic doctor would never sit down and just talk to you about one facet of life. That would be going against the principles of Ayurveda.
Yeah. And how did you get into it? Did you become a vegan and then get into it, or other way around?
I'll tell the short version of the story. I was 18. I had this kind of really irritating pain behind my left shoulder blade. Wasn't terrible, but wasn't tolerable. So it's not like, I had to go to the hospital, I'm in crippling pain or something like that. But I didn't want to walk around not like just feeling this all the time. So I did the normal thing. I just started going to doctors. Didn't even think that my diet could at all be related to it or, my relationships or anything like that. My emotional state, I was just like, oh, there's some functional thing wrong with me. So let's go get it fixed. So I go to the doctor. Okay, let's do an x-ray. No, x-rays are fine. Okay, let's go do an MRI. No, MRI doesn't show anything. Okay, let's do an EKG. No, EKGs are fine. You guys know. You get the story, right?
Yeah.
So I go through like 6 doctors in the span. And it wasn't me like firing doctors and going to other doctors. Doctors were sending me to other doctors. And eventually one guy, this neurologist, just sits me down and he's like, look, we don't know what the deal is. You've done physical therapy. It hasn't worked. Sorry. You got 2 choices. You can go on painkillers or we can do surgery. And I was just like, I'm not going to do either of those things. And that was a little bit freaky for me because at the time I didn't know what Ayurveda was. I didn't know anything about veganism, nothing. I didn't even know really about a healthy omnivorous diet. And so I was like, yeah, but I'm not going to do surgery at the age of 19, 20, and I'm not going to take painkillers. It's not going to happen. I kind of had a sense of what that could do, and I wasn't willing to go down that road. So I tried getting a massage one time. It didn't really help, but the guy was a really cool guy. And he said, why don't you try yoga? And so I tried yoga. So I went into a local yoga studio and realized that I was holding quite a bit of tension in my body. And I was like, okay, this is interesting. This is different. So I go up and I talk to the yoga teacher after class and I say, hey, can you like look me up and down and do a private session with me and maybe help me figure out what's going on? She's like, yeah, of course, definitely. So we schedule a private session. She kind of assesses my body, says, okay, try going in this posture, this posture, this posture. Lo and behold, within like 2 weeks, all my pain was gone, vanished, never to come back again. So that was a big mind-opening moment for me. I was like, whoa, there is a whole world of healing out here that I know nothing about. And that kind of set a tone for the following years. I was going traveling around the world. And so I was already planning on doing that, but it kind of created a motif for me of exploring different yoga practices. Ayurveda is the sister science of yoga, and they are meant to be practiced with one another. So I paint yoga as this asana practice, but that's not what yoga is really. Yoga is a complete science of basically uniting with your essential self. And it involves breath exercises, it involves meditation, and yes, it also involves asana. But it would be a mistake to say that it's just about doing postures. That's not yoga, that's just postures. So, anyways, I adopted that whole philosophy or mentality or approach to life. And then I wanted to apply it to a Western, my life in the West. I wasn't going to move to the Himalayas or something like that. So I came back to the United States after my travels with a lot more knowledge. And I met my current yoga teacher. And he introduced me to Ayurveda. And at the time I was looking to change careers. I was in real estate. And I was like, that is a beautiful health system. I want to pursue that. So that's what I did.
And when did you decide then to go fully vegan?
I had went fully vegan at 24. I was actually, do you guys have Chipotle in Ireland?
No, but we know of it. Like we know
Okay.
it.
I was in line at Chipotle, and I kid you not, this is, I had already started being a little bit healthier in general, but I was definitely not a vegetarian or a vegan. I was in line at Chipotle, and I looked over at the grill, and they just had all these chickens laid out on it. And like, I swear to God, I could literally see the death. And I was just like, I know it's weird, right? I'm not like walking around having experiences like that all the time, but that one moment is like something about it. I was just like, done. Nope, no more. Never had another piece of meat again.
No, that's kind of like the thing with Robert Downey Jr. when
Robert Downey
getting
Jr.
sober. He had like a Burger King burger, and he's like, "This is so disgusting. I want to get off drugs."
Yeah, it was literally like that for me. And it's not like that for everyone. Everyone kind of has their own journey with it. But,
So-
I think a lot of experiences in my life kind of prepared me for that moment. I'm not saying like all of a sudden it was like that,
No.
but that was the moment. I mean, it's very memorable to me.
So you're doing it more so for ethical reasons rather than for dietary reasons?
Both. I believe in both, the ethical reasons as well. So, I'm a big dog guy. I have a husky. I look into my husky's eyes and all that stuff. We have a great relationship. It's a super intelligent creature. Anyone who knows anything about huskies knows you have a full-on relationship with this dog, right? You can have a full-on relationship with most animals. So I'm not going to eat my dog. Why would I eat another animal?
Fair. Yeah. And I want to be the nitpicker again and ask just about like, dude, I feel it's horrible. Keep doing it, but I'm just trying to learn. So like, say lab grown meat. Like, would you be down with that, or because that's a weird thing for vegans at the moment. Like, if you can do without killing something, would you?
I personally wouldn't for health reasons. I think that solves a lot of ethical problems, and I think that can solve a lot of environmental problems. So I think it's a step, but there are probably going to be issues with lab grown meat. Usually most things grown in a lab turn out to have issues later when it comes to ingesting them. But I don't want to prejudge it because it hasn't even really come to fruition yet. So ethically, I don't have a problem with it. For as much as I know about it, I haven't done a deep ethical dive into what that entails. But the idea of just like, look, you can get the flesh without killing the creature. I like that much better ethically. Meat wise, body wise, metabolism wise, I wouldn't do it.
And how come?
Meat's very heavy and hard to digest in general. I like to keep my body lean and light. Gives me a lot of energy, and it my body very adaptable and flexible, and open. And that's very important for some meditative practices, for breath practices, for experiencing kind of a holistic sense of lightness and joy and happiness.
Okay, fair. And then the second question, like when I don't know, with your dog, you obviously wouldn't eat him. With a cow, you like, you can have a connection with it. Well, things you couldn't. How do you feel on that? Like, I know like there's some people who only have prawns because I don't know, prawns don't exactly care about your feelings, or
No,
things without nervous systems, blah blah blah, or without pain receptors.
yeah, they care about each other. So I try to avoid as much as possible having just a human centric view of the world. Like I think it's hard when we get into these kinds of conversations. It kind of always comes down to the environment as well. I mean, the mass destruction happening in the environment is gut wrenching to me, frankly. And the idea that, oh, humans need some stuff, therefore we can ignore the fact that these other species have these extremely complex social structures and they love each other and they communicate with each other. Just because I can't communicate with it and it can't communicate with me doesn't mean it's not a living creature that has an experience of life. And if I'm going to say I shouldn't kill another person on those grounds, why would I then say it's okay to just kill another creature on those grounds just so I can make my tongue feel better? You know, like that is the reason, basically, when it comes down to it. Um, you know, life and death happens all the time. That's not the issue. The issue is I'm going to kill you, cow or prawn or whatever, just so I can have the sensation of a good taste on my tongue for a few seconds. To me, that's not a good reason to end a life.
But that's how nature does it. Like, when a lion
Certain,
kills a gazelle, like it's not exactly thinking, dude, this is a complex being, bro. Why am I doing this? You know,
well, actually, we don't know what the lion's thinking. I'm not going to say the lion's thinking that. But if you watch,
obviously, I'm just taking the piss. I'm not trying to be.
if you no, but if
Yeah,
you actually watched, if you really watch animals and especially predators, man, it is not like humans are doing it. They kill only what they need to kill. They usually kill a creature that's having difficulties already. So, like, if you imagine, there's great shows where lions are hunting whatever, I don't know, wildebeest. I don't know the exact name, right?
yeah,
Or
Yeah.
something like that, right? A lot of the time they'll pick off one that is not doing so great. Not that it's got a disease or something like that, but it's not keeping up with the rest of the pack by virtue of the hunt, by virtue of the chase.
yeah,
Yeah.
So, and that's it. They're like, so take for example, in the United States, you have millions, hundreds of millions of buffalo. There are plenty of carnivores around, predators around, and they're built to hunt some buffalo. So they eat some buffalo, and you have hundreds of millions of buffalo left. You get humans involved, you have no buffalo left.
yeah. That is a dodgy one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't, when someone brings up, and I know you were doing this just to play devil's advocate, which is cool. I like that conversation because that's what people are thinking, our
Yeah,
audience.
the conversation should be had.
Yeah. We equate the lion to the human. No, that is not what's going on. Humans are mass destructing. Humans are doing all that stuff. Humans are wasting. Humans are killing things just for fun, practically. Not the lion that's killing to eat and to feed the cubs, period. And they're designed to eat that food only.
Yeah,
We were
yeah,
actually having a similar conversation about this the other day, Dirk. Remember with Alex, the archer, about ethical hunting.
yeah. We talk about hunting. Yeah, because like with most hunters, when they go and kill whatever, they're going to use as much of that thing as they can. Because most people who are hunting aren't doing it for fun, because they kind of get shunned for being pretty fucked up, as they should. But we were talking about that. He's saying, yeah, if he hunts them, he tries finish it as fast as he can. You use as much of it as you can. Delete the whole thing, like organs, everything, which most people don't normally eat. Um, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. So like
It's a weird one.
it's like that. Like I would say to that guy that's much more respectful and much more balanced than the way we go about mass producing meat just because we want, Egg McMuffin or something.
Yeah, in fairness.
Which is shit, by the way. Can I just say that?
I excuse you.
Shit food, Jared. Get over it.
Yeah, I haven't had one in nearly a year thanks to COVID. But what was the other thing about Alex Thomas? He
With what?
oh yeah, we're talking about like how they would die alternatively.
Oh
There's no
yeah.
big
That's what I was
predators in that
thinking as well.
area.
Mm.
There's no predators in that area, so like they either starve to death, or when they're weak enough, something smaller eats them alive, which
Right.
sounds pretty rough.
Yeah, that sounds rough.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that, and that's Ayurveda. In our modern culture, when we've gotten so far away from living with the rhythms of nature, we create an imbalance in nature, and then you got a problem. I mean,
Yeah,
there's no way around it.
yeah. This is why I love talking to people like yourself when we have permaculturists on, because we love to talk about like the way nature works and how we can work with it, whereas a lot of the time we find ourselves working against it. It's not the best idea.
No.
Not the best.
It'll kick your ass.
Yeah. Our bodies are completely. We're not cyborgs, right? So
Not yet.
But our bodies are completely based in the natural environment, and it's literally your body is made from the food you eat, the water you drink, the air you breathe, and the perceptions you take in. That's it. So if we destroy the balance of our environment, our bodies are part of that balance. We're destroying ourselves, quite literally. I don't mean that in some far-reaching metaphor.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
If we fuck up nature, we fuck up ourselves. Like, we're part of that cycle, and we're trying to remove ourselves from it, but it's not going to do us any good.
Yeah, it won't work.
Yeah. But look, I know you got to head off fairly soon, Victor. Dude, I love talking to you. We'll have you on again. This is a lot of fun.
100%.
Yeah, thank you for being a great nitpicker.
I know. I hope it didn't come across as rude at any point. I wasn't trying to be. I was really interested, and I knew you'd have an answer for it because you do so many of these.
Yeah, and I'm happy to talk more about it or any topic related. And if anyone wants to talk to me about veganism, vegetarianism, any of that stuff, that's what I do. I help people healthy.
So if people want to communicate with you, where can they find you?
Go to www.ii, as in the letter I, Ayurveda, and I'll spell that. So it's iiayurveda.com. And Ayurveda is spelled A as in apple, Y, U, R, V as in Victor, E as in elephant, D as in dog, A as in apple.com.
There you go.
Perfect.
Are you not on social media, are you?
I do kind of LinkedIn. Best way to reach me is the website.
There you go.
That's fine.
So if people want to check you out, they know where to find you. So we've gotten this far. So if you got this far with us, fair play to you. Make sure to take it handy and have a good one. Top of the morning, lads and ladies. Support for the Awfully Irish podcast is now brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming.
Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels, and you're no longer need the look of the Irish with the ladies. Manscaped just launched in Ireland. We've gone years without using the right tools for the job. You can now be one of the first men in Ireland to experience their life-changing products.
Your balls will thank you.
Get 20% off and free shipping with the code IrishPod at manscaped.com.
That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use code IrishPod.